the more features an AI tool has, the worse it gets. If it has this big interface and it does a lot of things, stay away.
What is some advice you can give them when it comes to optimizing their meetings?
Ultimately, the 2 tips for immediately collaborating better and more effectively, like you said, don't need a tool, and they're astonishingly simple. It's the first one, start with
Welcome to another episode of the Organized Chaos podcast. Today I'm joined by Kristy Hissa, General Manager at Kairos. As a former VP of Operations, Kristy knows the growth challenges from startup to scale up firsthand. She now leads a company that's solving the challenge of meetings and their impact on company performance and productivity. Kairos works at the intersection of strategic objectives and day-to-day execution, addressing the critical fact that 20 to 70% of company payroll is tied up in meetings. They've developed solutions that integrate directly with tools like Outlook and Google and provide expert support beyond their tools to help organizations make every meeting count. Kristy and I had an elaborate conversation on how meetings can impact performance and even bottleneck growing startups. We discussed many of the behaviors that lead to bad meetings and how companies can overcome them. If you want to improve your team's productivity and make better use of their time, then this is the episode for you. Let's jump right in. Kristy, welcome to the show. And listen, I've been super excited. I know you and I have been talking about this for a while, and I'm super happy to have you finally on the show because every time we speak, a lot of cool conversations come from that. And I think I kind of owe it to the audience to, sharing that wealth of experiences and knowledge. So without further ado, Kristy, welcome to the show. And for those who don't know you, who are listening here, I'd love if you could tell us a little bit more about your professional journey and specifically what's led you to become an entrepreneur, which is not an easy job at all.
I'm so happy to be here, Nahid. Love the show. Love what you're doing. That is a loaded question to start. Nowadays, it's a little bit more known as the generalist movement. So my life explaining what I do has become a little bit easier. But yeah, in a nutshell, I've been in startup land for about a decade now and probably most identify with being an operator and a VP of operations. I've been through acquisitions from both ends. I've managed product, marketing, sales, customer success, support, client implementations, engineering. An executive recruiter that I spoke with actually just called me a fixer. And that kind of sums it up. Someone who used to solve problems until I got the epiphany that problems need to be solved, but we need to grow beyond that. It's shockingly reactive. So that's been what I've been doing for the last decade or so.
No, I mean, that's pretty interesting. I like the fixer because, when you work at startups, I think you kind of have to be a fixer because a lot of stuff happens, a lot of stuff breaks sometimes. Not everything works the way you intended to. The show is oddly enough called Organized Chaos. There's a lot of chaos going on in startups. So I think that works. So Kristy, you are today a founder, an entrepreneur. And I would love if you could tell the audience here about your business, Kairos, and what was the inspiration behind it? Because I know the first time you and I spoke about it, I'm like, this is a problem worth solving because I relate to it so much. But I'll let you do the talking here as to what was the inspiration behind it and what are you trying to solve here?
Absolutely. For me, and I think this might be something that a lot of your listeners might relate to more than the average person on the street. After my last exit, I thought about, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be when I grow up? And it was jumping on the opportunity to create something different with Kairos. And what we do is effectively building a lever for other busy leaders, exactly who've been in the trenches just like myself, and making that shift from reactive to proactive. And when you ask me about the inspiration for Kairos and what we do, ultimately is calendar AI that helps you proactively drive progress every day and not just spend your whole day in back-to-back meetings and have nothing to show for it, But it was living that problem and trying every solution under the sun. Oh my God. I've executed a full-on meeting doomsday once and made everyone on the team basically justify why they would want to put meetings back on the calendar, which was wildly popular, as you can imagine, and really drive intent and outcome, thoughtful agendas, really think through who actually needs to contribute here into the calendar. So lobbied my CEO as being the face and messenger of all of that in the past. And it didn't matter what I tried, tools, projects like this, killing all meetings. Every single time, it took about 3 to 4 months until status quo just creeped back in and it was back to normal. So as a horribly stubborn individual, I kept exploring different approaches and started falling in love with organizational psychology, which turns out there's a whole group of people who've been studying this for way longer than I have.
I mean, it's a problem that, you and I have talked about this many times before, right? This whole problem with meetings is so prevalent at companies of all sizes. And before we talk about anything else, though, I'm interested in your take, given that you've been doing some research about this space, and, Kairos essentially is trying to solve this problem of meetings. But from your experience and research, why are most companies still to this day plagued with endless meetings? And do you have any information about really how much is this costing companies? Because I can assume it's a lot of money when you're spending so much time, quote unquote, in meetings, specifically if they're not productive or valuable.
To your first point, it's my belief that bad meetings are the first symptom of your business having an accountability problem. Truly.
Love that.
Because
I'm going to use that as a quote.
Well, nobody gets fired for running bad, unproductive, time-sucking meetings. And the more bad meetings you let happen, the more bad meetings you invite. And so it becomes this vicious spiral. And I think you and I talked about some of the research that we're doing because that's really something that we're very passionate about. It's not just cool AI that you can build over the weekend, but there's really foundational research underlying what we're trying to accomplish. And there was a study in 2022 that actually did the math that you just asked about. And what they found was that the average company of 100 employees spending about $2 million annually on unnecessary meetings alone.
$2 million.
Yeah, and that's unnecessary. Like, those aren't even the necessary but unproductive meetings. It's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's expensive.
Yeah, and when you think of it, I'm sure even, and to your point, I completely agree with you. This is probably a tip of the iceberg because if you're looking at cost from, let's say, the hourly wages that people spent there, there's also the opportunity cost of them actually not doing something they should have been doing, right? It could be delays in certain timelines. It could be missed milestones. It could be, hey, we're too busy. We need to hire more people to do the thing we could have done with less meetings and so forth. I've seen that so many times in companies, but that number is mind-blowing. Like $2 million for a 100-person company is significant. But yeah, $2 million is not a small number. Like when you're a small business, the amount of things you can do with that kind of money is substantial. Like you can build product lines with that kind of money. There's some companies who actually go out to get seed funding for that kind of money. So when you put it in that context, it's crazy.
Well, and it's time, right? The biggest resource that we're all craving right now in this mad era of being a human is time and what you can do with it.
No, that's great. That's really insightful. So, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the startup life and entrepreneurship as a whole, right? So you're a founder now and you're going through this process of building and growing a company. So from your lens, Kristy, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing as an entrepreneur? And are there any of these challenges that you did not anticipate coming into this that have really caught you by surprise? And if so, would love to hear, what those are.
I heard you say this earlier, actually, and this is a bit of a joke that I keep making is if I were to get $1 for every time somebody tells me everybody has a meeting problem and everybody needs your solution, it would be a significant revenue stream for Kairos. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But it is, I think the reality that we've had to learn is that not everybody has to act on their meeting problem. And that many organizations are okay with spending a lot of time and energy sucking meetings. It's just their reality and it's good enough for them and that's okay. So figuring out who is our target audience and, when in what situation does Kairos become from cool, but a nice to have to, wow, it would be weird if this person in this situation wouldn't buy Kairos.
That's very interesting that the fact that you mentioned that some companies, they recognize they have this problem. They're okay with having this problem. Do you have any insight as to why that is the situation where a company, you gave a stat for a 100-person company spending $2 million on unproductive meetings. So I would love if you have any insight into this as to why would a company who recognizes this is a problem, sees data into the impact of the problem, but also accept that this is part of life in the organization. We're okay with it.
I think especially in the current time, in my opinion, everybody would be better off with running better meetings. So I'll try to put myself in those shoes because I understand that with all the disruption that's going on, if your house is on fire, and we were talking about fires and fixing and reacting, and we all know we shouldn't be doing that, but there is a life or death situation where, heck, if you have zero revenue coming in right now and ChatGPT does what you're doing, maybe meetings aren't your top priority, and that's okay.
That's a good point, actually. I have a perspective on this, and even sometimes I can assure there's probably going to be listeners who are going to say, why are we talking about meetings in a show about scaling organizations, right, and taking them from 7 to 9 figures? I have a very deliberate answer to that, because a lot of times when you're a startup, you're dealing with a capacity issue, meaning you're either taking on way too much, right, than the manpower you have available to you. And what that means, there's also potentially a lot of milestones you need to meet. There's a lot of commitments you've made to customers, maybe investors, even to yourself to meet payroll, right? Especially if you're not funded. So optimizing how you spend your time as a workforce is super critical. It is actually one of the drivers that I've seen personally in working with founders and startups over the last 15 years is that a lot of times you can solve problems such as decreasing cost, increasing revenue, and keeping headcount relatively stable as you increase revenues by optimizing how you spend your time. Meetings is a big part of this, but there's also processes, systems, and so forth. But it is such a big factor, especially when you're a small team. Like if you're a 20 or 30 person company, every person has such an outsized impact on the organization, its capacity to deliver, to where spending time, forget the money part here, right? Let's forget the cost for a second. But just looking at the time, is my time better spent in doing something unproductive in a meeting? Or is it better spent doing something that actually adds value to the organization and helps it achieve its goals moving forward?
Right.
That's how I like to position it a lot of times, is that don't think of meetings in isolation. You need to put the right context around it as to why are we talking about this? So, hey, if you're thinking of increasing revenues, there's an opportunity to increase revenues just by looking at meetings alone, especially if you have a problem.
You're right. And it really is, it's kind of funny that you say that, because as a head of ops, I typically pitch like, hey, I solved 2 problems. Either you don't have revenue coming in and I help you figure out what's going on, or 2, sales is humming, but you have no idea how you're going to deliver. And I've been through both, and both are really fun in different challenges. Yep. But you're right, like especially with AI now and the ability to potentially autonomously execute to a degree, you have to be so clear on what is worth doing, or you're going to just ran into that wall a lot faster than you used to.
Yeah, AI is such an interesting topic, especially like in the space that I'm in. And I mean, your company is based on, on AI technology and so forth. I don't know if you've noticed this in AI specifically, but what I'm seeing a lot of with AI is AI has become, especially with CEOs and founders, I'm seeing this a lot. It's anytime there's a certain job that needs to be done, the task now from the people, from the operation in general is justify how AI can't do this. And then let's think of getting someone to do this. Is it something worth doing to begin with? And if so, can AI do it first? And it's not about can AI do it as well as someone else. Can it do it first? I've heard this from so many people on the show and outside, especially from a lot of founders and CEOs, to where it's become an interesting point is, are we looking at AI to throw stuff at it regardless of what's coming out? Or are we interested in actually using AI, assuming that the output is at least as good as it needs to be? Is that something you're seeing? And is that something that comes up in conversations when you're pitching Kairos and actually demonstrating how it operates?
It's an interesting conversation for sure. This is a little off topic and I'm still in the middle of this. Like, this is an experiment that I've been running for the entire month. I've signed up for every tool under the sun. If it has AI on it, I'll try it. And I just wanted to see on a broader spectrum, where is AI and what's working and what isn't. It was actually eye-opening, and I didn't start it from a point of building an AI native and an AI first company. I started it from a perspective of, as a generalist, touching all the parts of the business. What shouldn't I be doing? What should AI be doing for me? But what I learned was actually more impactful for our product management, which was the more features an AI tool has, the worse it gets. So I've been giving this advice to a lot of people who are evaluating tools right now. If it has this big interface and it does a lot of things, stay away. Because the best tools, the tools that actually have the most accuracy in terms of the output, are doing fewer things and are very clear on what they're doing for you. That was pretty impactful as a learning for myself.
Oh, no. Yeah. Now that you mention it, and I'm thinking, as you were speaking, I was thinking of the plethora of tools that I use as well. I think I resonate with that because I'm just thinking through my mind now. There's some tools which are very narrow in what they do. They're very specific, but they do it so well. Whereas there's some tools that try to be the catch-all for everything. They don't do anything really well. And I'm like, I gradually just go away from them because I'm having to spend more time actually fixing their output than actually using that in a beneficial way. But no, that's amazing. But Kristy, given the space you're in, and we've been talking about meetings and their impact of on the workplace and so forth. What is some advice that you can give to founders and HR professionals, which really make up most of the audience of this podcast? What is some advice you can give them when it comes to optimizing their meetings, regardless of if they're using any tool or not, right? What are some things that you think they could do to make meetings better and more productive based on what you've seen in your experience?
I'm actually planning a 30-day social campaign, which is like 30 days, one meeting tip per day. So depending on when this is aired, that might still be able to catch that on LinkedIn. Ultimately, the 2 tips for immediately collaborating better and more effectively, like you said, don't need a tool, and they're astonishingly simple. It's the first one, start with clearly defining your objective. And Simon Sinek calls that start with why. But it really is as simple as writing a desired outcome into your calendar invite and then reading that out loud at the top of the meeting. That's it. It's that simple.
That is such an amazing piece of advice because it's so simple when you listen to it, but I'm thinking through like how many meetings have I actually been at where that has been done? Probably less than 1% if I just want to say like on on average, which is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, I have a pet peeve with unspoken expectations. It's horrible. But that's probably the easiest you can do. I do have a second one that I think is more important because it actually touches not just yourself, but that's what's needed to really drive organizational change. And that is really thinking about only inviting active contributors. So unfortunately, that means you have to limit your meeting to 2 to 5 people, most meetings. And there are many reasons why people don't do that, which we're trying to address. But if you think about engagement and what we just said, achieving an outcome, the more people you invite to your meeting, that rising attendee list negatively correlates with your probability of achieving your desired outcome. So there's really a lot of thought that needs to get into your attendee list. And I'll say that one caveat that if you're in person, you can probably stretch it to up to 10 people if you have to for certain ones, just because you can physically take away phones and laptops and distractions. But yeah, be intentional about whose contribution you need and separate that meeting from active contributors and the information that happens, because you don't need this in the meeting. You just have to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks.
I love these because they're so simple, yet I've seen them play out effectively when done properly. But the thing is that not many companies and people actually do this as well. I love also the one with active, like only invite active contributors, like people who will actually contribute to reaching that initial outcome you set in the first recommendation. So critical because, I mean, I'm sure this applies to pretty much maybe everyone who's listening, but the amount of times that I've been in meetings where there were so many people who just were there that added zero value, but also they themselves question like, why am I even here? Because I'm in this meeting. This topic is either something I can't even contribute to. I have no decision making or authority over, right? I don't even understand enough about the topic to contribute in any meaningful way. Why am I invited? A lot of cases, it is maybe seniority. It's just providing visibility, quote unquote visibility, the one I love.
Quote unquote visibility.
Visibility. We need people to know. We need people to know what decision was made. I mean, that could be an email after the meeting, right? So sometimes, yeah, there are some internal politics sometimes that go into play and power dynamics and things of that sort. But yeah, those are very, very effective kinds of recommendations for sure. So, Kristy, having said all that and given this conversation, what's your vision for the future of workplace meetings, and why should scaling companies care about this?
Trying to predict the future in 2025 is probably the hardest thing any one of us can do right now. If you ask me, right now, the reason this all feels so intense is because what's happening right now is like we're right in the thick of this seismic shift that AI is driving. And so the disruption curve is still exponential. It will slow down. It will slow down eventually. Maybe 5 years, maybe 7, maybe 10, who knows? But I think as people, we have this natural inclination to overemphasize what we do, the effort that we feel that we put in, such as the working hours. But technology, whether it's AI or any other tech, is programmed for outputs. So no matter if you work 60, 70, 80 hours per week, AI will outwork you easily. So we'll have to, in my opinion, we'll have to really think about redefining the value and impact. And I think you were saying that earlier too. Like we have to think about what is the value that we bring to the organization? What is the impact that we can have? And experimenting with all that is out there today to make sure that, if AI is taking these meeting notes from this podcast recording and, sending us a follow-up and planning all these things around it, let it. Like, that's not the value that we're providing as employees or as people. So I think that's the question for us is, where do I need to spend my time and how can I maximize the impact that I have?
Yeah, I love so many things about what you just said, because I've said on so many occasions on the podcast and outside of it, is that the AI shift is going to get us to rethink how we work. I think it's long overdue because if you think about it, most of the workplace has been using sort of the working standards and working mindset of what was happening in the 70s, probably, right? So it hasn't evolved really much. It has become more effective. We have become more productive. The internet and technology has helped. But I liken the AI shift to when the internet came onto the scene with business, because it was such a seismic shift, right? Again, there was a lot of businesses that popped up. We all know about the .com era and the bubble that happened. So many companies popped up, but then, a lot of them no longer exist. But then it became more purposeful as to what these companies do. And there was some, rules that were written around what works and what doesn't. I kind of think AI is probably going to end up there somewhere. And to your point, which I love what you said, is that we need to decide where we spend our time on. And ironically enough, we've been talking about meetings. We spend most of our time in meetings. And the thing is, what I've seen is the higher up you go in the organization, the more meetings you have. Not only that, you actually influence the amount of meetings more than other people. I see executives actually be the cause of more meetings than anything else. Right?
Our studies found the exact same.
There you go. So there's data to validate my claims. I love that. But, executives tend to push for that more often. But if you think about it, people who are the top of the organization, they're typically there to influence the direction, influence strategy, influence what we're doing, how we're doing it. It's a lot of big thinking, cognitive type of work, which is, meetings are a good benefit in some cases, right? Like that, right? And they should be very well targeted. But at the same time, it's a lot of work that you need to spend your human brain power on, as opposed to just trying to do that in meetings all the time. And AI, to your point also earlier, it's such a productivity booster. I've been using AI tools for the past 2 years. I don't think I can imagine a future without them anymore, because this thing used to take me a week to prepare. Now I'm doing it in a minute. So I can do better things, more productive things now, which I think is amazing. I'm kind of one of those people who are optimistic about the future of AI.
So now you can spend more time in meetings.
Oh, God.
It's true, though. And we've obviously, running Kairos, this has been the hardest to think about. What is our strategic flywheel of growth? What does the future look like as we build out what we do? How can we build a moat in a world where AI startups get wiped out with every ChatGPT release, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot there that we won't possibly unpack here today. But it really is, there was one thing that you said about the shift over the last couple of decades. And I actually think you're right. We've become more effective in some ways, but meeting-wise, we've become less effective. And we've become, if you think about when we all used to go back into an office, and I'm not advertising that or promoting that in any way, but there was a limit to how many meetings you could have, because you were in an office and the office was open from 9 to 5 and that was it. And now that our calendars have these dial-ins, you'd be surprised how many times I hear I'm quadruple booked during this time. Quadruple booked has now become a thing. And as much as that is horrible and talking about being reactive, but think about the power of AI, learning how you communicate, and then thinking about, Super Nahid as just your proxy attending on your behalf on things that maybe are not worth your time, and your team is still unblocked because they can engage with Super Nahid and ask him, what would Nahid say?
Right.
WWND. What would Nahid do?
Right. I like that. No, I think that's such a great point. Is I mean, that's a great example of how AI can really help you optimize. And that's really what Kairos does, right? Is that, analyzes, your meetings, your calendars, how you do things and sort of, helps you be more productive and optimize for, how to best use your time, which is really amazing here. But yeah, I think something I've been joking about with all the recent guests, especially when an AI topic comes along, which has been almost every episode now, is I'm going to reach out to almost everyone like in 5 years from now and just laugh at, and I'm sure we're probably going to laugh at what we were talking about right now. We're either going to be right in some cases, but given the pace of change, we're probably going to look like we did not know what the hell we were talking about today, given the seismic changes that are happening. And I mean, it's like every day you hear something, some new development, which is kind of mind blowing. So I think that'll be interesting to look back.
I think we'll have a new ChatGPT release in July here, and you would probably be better. Maybe you should do a podcast episode where you're interviewing ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT where it thinks we're going to be in 5 years, and you'll probably get a better answer.
That's actually a great idea. I should probably report that, right? Like, hey, let's see where ChatGPT thinks, it's going to be. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. But, yeah, a lot of unknowns, but it's an exciting times, right? I'm sure
I think so.
There's going to be a lot that's going to be happening, but I think ultimately it's going to work out for the better. I mean, humans were not designed to do the stuff that we've been bogging ourselves down with, day after day. We're not designed to be this 24/7 machine. We're not designed to be productive for 8 hours straight. We just can't be. We cannot scale. I've said this so many times in maybe every episode. Humans do not scale, full stop. It's, they just can't. But, guess what? AI can give you a superpower. You can be more productive with meetings, and how you spend your time and so forth. That's how you spend your time is so critical. It's always been, but I think it's coming to the forefront now that you have technology is going to be able to help you so much, just like what Kairos is doing. It's going to be able to help you identify where you can optimize your time and how, and just make the whole process easier. To that example you gave about companies who, this is a problem that they have. They know it's there, but they're not doing anything about it. Well, now there are tools like Kairos who can actually do this for you, and you don't have to actually think about it so much anymore, which hopefully will be kind of the norm moving forward.
Yeah, we've definitely learned this. For any founder out there, your technology has to be invisible. Don't wait for people to give you the input or learn a new tool. This was another learning from the experiment that I did of trying a dozen tools. The tools that require me learning them, not worth it. Maybe AI can learn it for me and then operate it for me. Maybe it's faster creating an agent to learn a tool like Clay or whatever is out there than for me spending my time trying to learn it.
No, that is such a great, drop that you just made, is when it's invisible and it just works without you having to worry about getting it to work and learning how to get it to work, I think would be pretty helpful. And to your point, the tools that are doing that actually are the ones who are probably, I'm assuming, have the best adoption rates and so forth. Because we use so many tools every day. It's crazy the amount of tools that we use on any given day. And there's so much you can learn and have the appetite for given everything you do every day as well, which is crazy.
Right. And especially for startups of, all sizes. Nowadays, what was the largest that I've heard somebody describe their company as a startup? I believe it was 700 employees.
Interesting.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be a startup because everybody wants to.
That's a late stage. That's a late stage start. It's not even a startup anymore. But I mean, hey, we can be flexible with the definition. That's okay.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, Kristy, this has been great. This has been amazing. Thank you for all the insights. For the listeners out there who want to reach out for a chat, want to learn more about Kairos, what's the best way to reach you and learn more about your company?
LinkedIn is the one social media that I'm still on. So Kristy Hissa on LinkedIn. I believe I might be the only one. Or meetkairos.com. Yeah, right? Until maybe there's AI Kristy Hissa, who knows?
I know.
You won't be able to tell the difference. But yeah, our website or LinkedIn, those are the ones. And free trials are open, so give it a shot. We love hearing user stories. it just helps us learn about the impact that we're having. So that's always great. And right now we're digging into some agentic workflows out of the box. So it's a good time to get in now.
Nice. Well, what I'll do, Kristy, is I'm going to include all these links in the bio for the episode and the description. So I'm going to include, Kristy's LinkedIn profile, Kairos website, and all the information you need to reach to Kristy, have more understanding about what Kairos does, and participate in that free trial, which I highly recommend. Kristy, thanks again. Great having you. Amazing conversations, and look forward to having you again at some point in the future.
Anytime.
Thank you.